Welcome to this lesson on rates. Please be sure you have these notes in front of you so we can begin our lesson. We have two I can statements for today. The first I can statement says I can explain the concept of a unit rate. And the second I can statement says I can describe a ratio relationship using rate language. So let's talk about the vocabulary on the left-hand side of our notes. So yesterday we introduced the concept of a ratio. And a ratio basically compares two different quantities or two different object quantities. So an object quantity would be pencils to erasers or dog to cats. So ratios compare two quantities that are objects. The second vocabulary word is called rates. And rates are ratios, but they compare two quantities of different kinds of units. So this includes miles per hour, and those are two different kinds of units. Miles is one unit, and hours is another unit. We can also have miles per gallon. Miles is one type of unit, gallons is another type of unit. Notice we have the words per in between. Anytime you have the word per, it means you're talking about a rate. So per means rates. The next vocabulary word is called unit rate. A unit rate is still a rate, but the denominator is always 1. So a unit rate is a rate with a denominator of 1. The next vocabulary word is called a unit price. And it's the same thing as a unit rate. The only thing that we're talking about now is we're talking about cost. So unit price means the cost per one unit, or the cost of one item. So now let's move on to our key concepts on the right-hand side of our notes. So let's do some comparisons. A ratio is comparing two objects. So one way to write a ratio would be 15 over 5. An example of rate would be 15 miles over 5 seconds. And then for unit rate, after reducing the 15 over 5 to make the bottom a 1, your unit rate would be 3 miles over 1 second. One thing to remember, as a general rule, money would usually go on the top of your fraction. Another general rule is that distance is another item that usually goes on the top of your fraction. And time usually goes on the bottom. So money goes on top, or distance goes on top, but time usually goes on the bottom of our fractions. So the next thing we're going to talk about is a double number line. All it is two number lines that are stacked on top of each other. And the way that you would fill it out, and what we're going to do is we're going to use this example up here to fill out our double number line. We're going to place miles on top. So we'll start off with 0 miles at the beginning and 0 seconds on the bottom. Our unit rate would usually be the first line, so 3 miles for 1 second. So other possible rates, if I times that by 2, if I doubled that, that would be 6 miles for 2 seconds. And if I times that by 3, that would be 9 miles for 3 seconds, and so on. So your patterns would continue on our double number line. So let's use these key concepts to go through the following examples. So let's talk about example 1. Example 1 says Samantha picked 45 oranges in 5 minutes. So take a look at my double number line. I've got oranges on top and time on the bottom. So the problem says that Samantha picked 45 oranges in 5 minutes. So I can write it as 45 over 5. I can write it in a fraction form. But using my double number line, I'm going to place the 45 right above the 5-minute mark. So if I look at it, I know that 45 oranges per 5 minutes is 1 rate. So let's go ahead and figure out the unit rate by making the bottom number into a 1. So if I want to make my denominator look like a 1, I would have to reduce by dividing 5 by 5. So 5 divided by 5 will get me the 1 that I need. And if I do that to the bottom, I have to make sure I divide the top by 5 as well. So 45 divided by 5 is equal to 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and write 9 oranges on the top of 1 minute. So my unit rate would be 9 oranges over 1 minute. Or you can write it as 9 oranges per 1 minute. Notice I have that word per again, and per means a rate. So the next thing they're asking, why is this a unit rate? And the reason it's a unit rate is because the denominator is equal to 1. So what we can do now is we can use our double number line to figure out other possible rates using our unit rate. So I'm going to take my unit rate, which is 9 over 1, and I'm going to ask myself, how can I make the 1 look like a 2? But I can times the 1 by 2, so I can get 2. So if I do that to the bottom, I should also be able to do that to the top. So 9 times 2 would be 18. So 18 oranges per 2 minutes would be another rate. I could also multiply 1 by 3 to get another rate. So if I multiply the 1 by 3, I have to multiply the top by 3. So 9 times 3 is equal to 27. So another rate would be 27 oranges per 3 minutes. And also, if I want to make the bottom into a 4, I would multiply the bottom by 4. So 1 times 4 would be 4. Multiply the top by 4. So 9 times 4 would be 36. So my rate would be 36 oranges per 4 minutes. And those are the other possibilities for the rates for 45 over 5. So pause the video, complete the got it problem, and we'll discuss the answer in class tomorrow. And also please be sure to draw the double number line inside of your composition notebook. Example 2 says the Australian dragonfly can travel 18 miles in 30 minutes. So if you remember from the key concepts, it said that distance should go on the top and time should go on the bottom. So distance over time. If you look at my double number line, miles is the distance, that's why it's on top, and minutes is the time, that's why it's on the bottom. So I know that the problem is giving me 18 miles on the top for 30 minutes, which is the bottom. So that is one possible rate. So we can write that down here as 18 miles over 30 minutes. And if I look at my double number line now, they have 15 minutes in the middle. I would ask myself, how did they get 15 from the 30 right here? Well, to go from the 30 to the 15, they would just reduce their fraction by dividing it by 2. 30 divided by 15 gave me 2. So if I divide the bottom by 2, I want to make sure I divide the top by 2 as well. And we know that 18 divided by 2 is 9. So 9 miles per 15 minutes is another possible rate. Alright, so I want to figure out what the unit rate is. And to make it a unit rate, I have to make sure the bottom number becomes a 1. So I'm going to take my original fraction, which was 18 over 30, and let's divide the top and bottom by 30, because I want to make the bottom number into a 1. So 30 divided by 30 gets me the 1 that I need on the bottom. However, if you take notice now, 18 divided by 30 does not get you a nice clean number. What it does do is it gives you a decimal. So if you do 18 divided by 30, you might get a decimal, or you can get a fraction, and you can write your fraction like this. 18 over 30. But you want to make sure you reduce that fraction fully, and 18 over 30 can be reduced. So if I divide 18 over 30 by something they both have in common, I can divide the top and bottom by 6. So that would be 3 over 5. So my unit rate would be 3/5 miles over 1 minute. Or 3/5 is the same as 0.6 miles over 1 minute. You can write it as a fraction or a decimal. So up here in my double number line, I'm going to write 3/5 miles per 1 minute, which would be my unit rate. And once again, this is the unit rate because the denominator is equal to 1. So pause the video, complete this guided problem, and we'll discuss this answer in class tomorrow. And please be sure to draw the double number line inside of your composition notebook. So for example 3, it's saying that 4 potted plants cost $88. And we notice that money goes on top, so I put money on the top of my double number line, and plants are going to go on the bottom. So one rate would be $88 per 4 plants. I want to figure out what the unit price of this is. So I know that the unit price, the bottom number needs to be 1. So I'm going to write 88 over 4 as my fraction, and I want to make that 4 look like a 1, so I'm going to divide the top and bottom by 4. So 4 divided by 4, the bottom is 1, and the top becomes 22. So that becomes my unit price because my denominator is 1. So on my double number line, on the first line closest to 0, I'm going to write $22 on the top for 1 plant. So that becomes my unit rate. And once again, the reason why I place 88 on the top is because price should come first and plants should come second. So I can write $22 over 1 plant. I could write $22 per 1 plant. Notice I have the word per, which means rate. The other part of this question is asking, why is this a unit price? And the reason why this is a unit price is because the denominator is equal to 1. So what we can do now is we can figure out another possible rate by doubling this. So if I multiply 1 times 2, 1 times 2 becomes 2. So for 2 plants, I'm going to figure out the cost of that. So if I multiply the bottom by 2, I can multiply the top by 2 as well. So 22 times 2 would be 44. So my rate would be $44 per 2 plants. And that's another possible rate for this problem. So pause the video, complete this guided problem, and we'll discuss the answer in class tomorrow. Please be sure to draw this double number line inside of your composition notebook. So for example 4, they're still giving us the same exact thing. They said 4 potted plants cost $88. And we pretty much did this in the previous problem. So we know that the unit cost was $22 for 1 plant. And then we also doubled that, so we got $44 for 2 plants. So now that we know the unit price, which is $22 per 1 plant, I can figure out how much 5 plants would cost. So if I multiply the bottom by 5, I would have to multiply the top by 5 as well. So 1 times 5 gives me 5 plants. And if I multiply the top by 5, 22 times 5 gets me $110. So on my number line, another possible rate would be $110 per 5 plants. Therefore, 5 plants would cost $110. Now for the next part, it says how much would 9 plants cost? If I still use that same unit rate, which is $22 on the top for 1 plant on the bottom, I can multiply the top and the bottom by 9. So if I multiply the bottom by 9, I would get 9 plants. If I multiply 22 by 9, I would get $198. So on my double number line, someplace on it, the top would be $198 per 9 plants, which is another rate. Therefore, 9 plants would cost $198. So pause the video, complete this guided problem, and we'll discuss the answer in class tomorrow. Please be sure to draw this double number line inside of your composition notebook. Now that we've completed the lesson, go ahead and self-rate yourself and let us know how you feel. If there's any part of this video that you do not understand, please go back and rewatch it again. Also, please come to class with some questions so that we can discuss it in further detail.